Alright, why do I like to study history? I was an English major in college, but I also took history classes, and I found them interesting because what history does is helps you to understand the world you live in. Now, there are people who don't care. They don't want to understand the world they live in, and they're happy that each day brings new surprises and new events that they don't know about, don't understand, and get to puzzle over and say, I wonder why that happened. However, I like to be able to chart my path, and I want to know the surroundings, the definitions, what I'm dealing with. And I think Pastor and I did a pretty good job of understanding who we were, where we were, and what we wanted out of life. And I think we were pretty good in achieving that. So once that's achieved, why do I still like studying history? Well, one, you learn lessons, don't you? You learn lessons from history. You see patterns. You can understand things. And so I have other historical videos. You probably have watched them. I have another one coming up. It's going to be this one, right? This will be the next one, and it's going to be on a topic called White War. So what is White War? Well, some people would immediately say, oh, you're a racist. And some people would immediately say, the whites are going to war on the world. La, ha, ha. They've done it in the past. They're going to do it now. That's a very limited point of view. It really is. There have been wars forever in all societies, amongst all peoples. There's a very famous carving, painting that Thai restaurants and Thai people will have in their homes of a very famous Thai battle, and I believe they were fighting the Burmese at the time. In Africa, the Africans were warring against each other. Here in America, native tribes warred against each other. They may not have always tried to do a complete decimation, but they absolutely did counting coup and taking prisoners and stealing property and all sorts of things. War is the way of the world. So my study of white war is not that. It's not racist. It's also not when whites warred on whites, like the 100 Years' War, or when Hitler decided to try to take over Europe and he attacked Poland and France and, all those countries over there, Romania and so on, Russia. It's not when England was oppressing the Scots and the Brits, the Irish, and scaring them and taking their land and them all coming here, emigrating to the U.S. It's not that. I got to cut this point down. It's an actual event, the White War. And I don't even know how I stumbled across it, but I was fascinated by it. It was actually in World War I, not World War II. And there is a more online presence for World War I history because it's been 100 years, right? And also, as I said in my last live stream, and I think maybe the video before that, the weather has cycled around from a very, very cold period to a warmer period, bringing us back to temperatures in the 1914 time frame. And so it's exposing World War I battlefields, and people are starting to find them and study them. There's one, I think it's in Belgium, that had a crowd-funded archaeological dig there of a huge battle there. And this little town found trenches with bodies still in them and all the equipment on them. And the White War was fought in the Alps between France and I think it was Germany, Austro-Hungary, kind of that border there between Austria and Italy. That would have been Kaiser Wilhelm's forces. And I forget who the Italian leader was, but they both probably had the same thought, like, oh snap, if we don't secure that little thing, they can pour through there, kind of like Hannibal did with his elephants down into Rome. So they both sent forces up to this part of the Alps. And when I told Pastor that, he said, well, 2,000 feet above sea level is not that high. No, this part of the Alps is very high. It's 6,000 to 12,000 feet above sea level, which is where altitude sickness becomes a problem. And according to what scientists are finding up there, 1915 and 16 were very, very cold compared to the years before that. And 30 to 40 feet at least of snow fell during that wintertime, which was not usual. And these soldiers had to fight in that. And I'm reading more than one article. I've got a book on the way, but the articles are very in-depth about the German forces actually dug into the mountains and into glaciers and set up their little base camps with desks and beds and cooking equipment and medical equipment. And the Italians, I think, kind of set base, but would go back and forth. Like they would kind of retreat down and come back up and move around. So some of the hardships they endured was just trying to get equipment up there. There were no equipment. There was nothing up there. There were not even roads. They had to build the roads to get to these locations. And then they had to bring up everything they wanted to set up there. All the military people, everything to support them, cannons, mules, everything had to go up these roads at these altitudes. And another article said that 3/4 of the casualties that they suffered were from the weather. They were from avalanches, landslides, snowfalls, frostbite, hypothermia. 3/4. I mean, that's out of 100 people you take up there, 75 die from the cold. You only have 25 guys left to fight with, right? I mean, brutal, brutal conditions, very extreme. And they have found bodies up there. An example of who was there fighting, the German forces had a captain who was 21 years old. And the Italians have found at least 3 bodies of soldiers who were stripped naked, all their equipment taken. They were also Germans because they lost a big battle up there and the Italians kind of took back over. They estimate they were 18 years old. 18 years old. Now, you have to think about that nowadays. This is where it becomes very, very relevant. Who amongst our population who's 18 years old can do something like that? When people talk about a civil war and society changing and all of that, you have to understand that in a civil war, the people fighting could be everybody. Could be everybody. In the American Civil War, there were 70-year-old soldiers and there were 14-year-old soldiers. But it was fought on the East Coast, not up in the Alps, right? 18 to 25-year-olds are the best soldiers because they're the fittest guys. And they probably haven't been injured and they probably haven't developed, lung problems from smoking too much and everything. Well, look at our young people today. America is fat. America is globally, comparatively fat. We have rising rates of obesity. We have rising rates of diabetes. I don't know who you think is going to fight these civil wars, but it's certainly not going to be the majority of this populace, which means the majority of this populace is going to be the sheep. How easy is it going to be to round up the guy who's 30, who weighs 500 pounds and can barely move? And I hate to be brutal, but I mean, your enemy may not care that much about you. Think about the Bataan Death March. I'm just saying, I don't know if America is ready for it. Even the people who are pushing to cause the divisions, I don't know if they understand the depth of what they're talking about. Because those guys up there, the world in 1918 was different. Everybody had to grow up and be tough. There were no grocery stores, and the everyday chores that you had to do in order to just live were more like what off-grid people do now. You pump your water, carry your water, plant your crops, eat from your own garden, butcher your own animals. Those are the kind of people who were doing those things in the Alps in 1914 14s, 15, 16, 18. So who in America is going to be able to do those things now? I have two ideas, three ideas, and then you all can answer that question for yourselves. Athletes. The young people who right now are athletic, who have been playing their sport since they were 5, wrestlers, baseball players, basketball players, football players, joggers, tennis players, etc. They're generally fit. Swimmers, right? Farm kids, agricultural kids, because it's hard work. Dairy guys get up at 4, milk cows, go to school, come back, take care of cows. Ranchers and outdoorsmen, people who hike, people who camp, people who are constantly at elevations and wandering around and spending time, right? Runners, people like that. Those are the people who will do it. But will they want to? That's the Cincinnatus kind of thing. That's the kind of George Washington thing. Are they actually going to want to do that? Because I'm here to tell you, I don't want to give this up to go fight somewhere. Forget it. This is way better. I don't know, y'all. What do y'all think? All right, I got to go. Bless you. Shalom. Oh, crew members. Be walking. Keep yourself fit, you guys. Just saying.